Okay, I think we are at almost 12 o'clock Eastern here on the East Coast of the United States. I'm here outside of Washington, D.C. Thank you for watching today. Please type in the comments where you're watching from, as it's always fun to see where we've got people at joining us. And at the same time, tell us a challenge that you are facing in your job search. So it could be anything from thinking about job searching to wanting to grow in your career internally, where you're at. It's all fair game. Tell us the challenge or a question. I'm going to get to the questions at the end. First, I'm going to talk about things that I have been speaking with our clients very recently. But I would love to answer your questions at the end. So don't be shy. Type them into the comments. At the end, I will also share, because I will be talking about interviewing today, as most of us now are doing on Zoom virtually. So it's a bit of a different ball game. But I will have a free interview guide that you can click on at the end in the comments and grab. You'll also be signed up for our newsletter list with career advice every week, and you can always unsubscribe from that at any time. So there's no obligation there. So, interviewing, yes, the game has changed a little bit now that it is virtual, but the same basic principles apply. I've been doing a lot of mock interviews recently with clients in different stages of interviewing for different roles. And universally, what's true is you have to make sure that you have the right setup, right? So you don't want to have too many distracting things going on behind you. Something I've noticed often is somebody will have like an overhead fan going or a light shining really bright next to your head. These are all things to be aware of. You really want the light shining from underneath you or the side. You want to turn off devices. This seems obvious, but we all forget these things, right? You might even want to make a checklist. Make sure you're not getting dinging notifications and things. Remove those obstacles as much as possible. It's not always possible, and your toddler might run in and jump on your lap. And in this pandemic world, that is okay. But as much as you can, try to have a quiet space, possibly with headphones, and make sure you're prepared. Now, some more real interview principles that apply all the time. The first is, and this is especially true in a Zoom interview, but repeat people's names. So pay attention to what people's names are. Usually you can see it if it's Zoom right under their picture, or write them down so you have them. Use names to address people. So if somebody asks you a question, you might say, sure, Joe, thank you for that question. I'd like to tell you about a time when. It really shows that you're engaged, because it's something that's very difficult to do when you're on camera and not in person. And so just using people's names really makes people feel good and gives a good impression about your interpersonal skills. The second thing is, when you are asked a question, the best way to set it up and help yourself from going too crazy with going in different directions as you talk or get excited about your work is to paraphrase the question that was asked in order to set up the one, say one unless they ask for more, example that demonstrates how you've done that. So, for example, if they say, tell me about a time when you had a conflict with a colleague, it will help you to jog your memory, even if you've prepared examples, to give yourself a second to pause and say, yes, Mary, I will tell you about a time that I had a conflict with a colleague. That will also help you slow down so you're not rushing. I'm from the Northeast. I tend to talk very quickly, and I have learned over time to slow that down. And I could tell you that I notice it all the time when somebody is talking too fast in an interview. You might be nervous, you might be excited, but setting it up this way and repeating the question really helps you to slow down and focus on that one example you want to give without going too many directions. And the third piece that is super important, I don't see this happen all the time, but I do see it very often, is using phrases like I believe or I think, right? So someone might say, I believe I'm the right person for this job, or I think I can do a great job, or I believe that, I'd be able to make a huge contribution in X area or exceed sales. You don't believe it, you know it. You need to exude that confidence going into an interview and throughout the interview. So try to remove that from your language. You might want to practice in front of a mirror. You might even want to record yourself answering certain questions, and pay attention because we do it subconsciously. And, it's not a big deal if you say it once or twice or even three times during an interview, but if your answers are continuously peppered throughout with, I believe this, I think that, it really doesn't help an interviewer feel like you are the right person and the most confident that you'll be able to do the job, right? You know it, so don't tell them you think you can do it, tell them that you can do it. So it's just a matter of using active language, active verbs to describe what you can do. So, those are 3 key interview tips that you really want to keep in mind as you're job searching, as you're interviewing. It is very important because it really does help you take control of the situation. So when you are, even if you are stumped by some of the questions that you're asked, or you're feeling really lost, or like things aren't going well, these things help you be in control. And I'll quickly review here because I know others have joined us. The first is repeating people's names as you answer questions or during the interview. You might refer back even to something somebody said earlier. Use their first name. Second, paraphrase the question when asked. That will help you set up your one example that you're giving as an answer and help you stay on the narrow road to make sure you're actually answering the question. And then third, stay confident. Remove I believe and I think I can do it from your language, and just tell them what you can do, what you know you can do. So those are the tips that I've got from recent interactions with clients. I would love to answer some of your questions now. So if you want to type some of those into the comments. At the same time, I will share this free resource. You just might hear some clicking while I copy over here. And as I said, this has a lot of interview questions you might be asked, as well as questions that you might want to ask interviewers too. So there's some good stuff there that will help you out in keeping these things in mind. Do we have any questions? It doesn't have to be about interviewing. It can be about anything under the sun related to job search, careers, professional development, offers, negotiations, management of staff. It's all good. Just give it a few more minutes. Don't be shy. We're friendly here. And honestly, as you can tell, just like in working with clients, your questions help drive a lot of the content that we produce. So please feel free to share. Great question. Hi to everyone. Thank you. Do you think sitting during an interview or standing makes a difference? Running presentations, I'm standing, I'm more confident. Yes, and actually I keep meaning to do that and standing myself, because when I stood before in videos, I feel the same way as you do, much more confident. I haven't heard of or seen somebody interviewing do that. The reason I would maybe advise against that would only be because if you tend to fidget or need to hold something as you are talking, that might be a problem, right? And there's a lot of things we don't notice that we do. Like, I might twiddle my thumbs or stick my hands in my pockets or play with a pen. So if you know you're doing that and that's going to be on screen, be careful of it. I would practice first. But if you do feel most confident that way, I think it's a great idea. It will probably help you stand out as well. Excuse the word, stand out, because not many people I have seen do that. So I think that's a great idea. Hi, Maria. Thank you for the question. Great. What are some of the best questions you can ask in interviews as an interviewee? So my favorite question, and it's probably in the freebie, but I can't remember, is what do you love about working here? And what would you change? That is going to give you so much insight into the culture and really show you if it's a place where most people kind of get that question and are very honest, I find. And so it really gives you a sense of what that place is like. So there might be something they say they love and you'd say, oh, I would not like working there at all. Or the thing that they say they would change might not bother you at all, right? In a workplace, because people are different. Love that question. I also think it's very important to clarify right up front what day to day looks like. So if you don't have a clear idea throughout the discussion you've had, I would ask very specifically, right? What is involved in this role day to day? And another question, if they haven't told you, that is completely fair to ask, and I think you should ask, is this a new role, or is somebody transitioned out of it? What's the situation with it? Because again, you can really gain some insight there as to the reasoning behind why someone left the role. And I don't think they're going to tell you, if there was a big conflict or somebody didn't like their manager, or the manager's a micromanager and, that caused this person to leave. But you still really can gain a lot from that. So I would definitely ask that question. Another good one too, of course, is professional growth. So if you're trying to move on because you felt you're at a ceiling where you're at and you really want more growth, you can ask things about that, right? Like whether there's formal mentoring programs, whether there's opportunities for external or internal training opportunities, or even, shadowing in different departments and that sort of thing. And you can kind of gauge how open they are to that with that question. Great questions. Any others before we wrap up here? We've got a couple minutes left, or follow-ups to anything I said. Sometimes I tend to pack too much into what I'm saying, so please feel free to clarify anything. Really, again, taking control of these things and realizing that the interview is a two-way street. They have to sell to you as much as you have to sell to them. So we often go in thinking it's just about selling ourselves, but they really have to do it for you too. So ask hard questions. If there is a technical issue, do you suggest trying to restart a call? Yes, I would do that and just offer them a couple of options. So say, I'm not sure what's going on and I don't want to waste a lot of your time. I know it's valuable. So if it would be easier, I could call into a number, or you can call me at this phone number. Sometimes, there's different options you could choose from Google Meet. So it's called Google Conferencing or Google Meets, WhatsApp, FaceTime, Zoom. There's so many options now. So you can also, and that will show that you're resourceful, right? Is that you're thinking outside. Like, it doesn't just have to be Zoom. We could try a different platform, or WebEx, whatever they use. So absolutely. Because it's frustrating on both ends if you can't hear, or things are breaking up, or you're freezing in the middle of a call, which happened to me interviewing somebody the other day. So you do want to make yourself and them more comfortable and make the process easier and save time. So absolutely, go for it. And hopefully that won't happen too often. These were great questions. Thank you so much for joining us. And we'll be back next Friday, same time, 12 Eastern. So bring your questions, and we'll see you then. Have a great rest of the day and a wonderful weekend. Take care.